In recent times, with social stratification coming to an all-time high, midterms in America brewing down to the left and the right's battle for equality and independence, as well as tensions in the East revolving around inflation, we see that the world is at an all-time high when it comes to social stratification and a need for unity, as stated by Peter Bjorgen, who is with NPR today. Therefore, when we understand the world's need for a unification and a system of agreement, we have to look at the country, none other known as Lebanon, to understand that a nation racked with poverty and systematic oppressions is in need of an ideal to pull itself out of the current injustices that it faces. So today we are posed with the question, what will have to happen to secure the future for Lebanon? And we're going to be answering and understanding this question in 3 key areas of analysis by first, starting with an understanding of what currently happened in Lebanon to cause it to end up in the situation that it is at today. Number two, finding solutions and understanding why the government's current solutions have not worked. And then three, implementing these solutions and seeing how they will work in the status quo for the future and stability of Lebanon. So, to begin our speech today, we have to, number one, understand what has gone on in the country of Lebanon to cause such social strife and stratification within its people and leave the country in deep systematic poverty. Well, Reuters.com tells us, and they said back in October of 2021, years of civil war caused crisis grappling with deep economic disparities, and thus, after coming out of years of civil war, the country has not been able to bounce back. And given this civil war happened back in the 90s and the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s, after all of these years, you would think that a country would be able to bounce back with social reform and better political candidates. However, we have not seen this to be the case at all, because with more systematic poverty, oppression, and poor misguided social leaders poorly influencing the trajectory of the economic stance, we've seen that Lebanon has not been able to make a full recovery. In fact, according to Politico, they stated just last month, in fact, in 2022, in September 21st, that the state of Lebanon has had tremendous downpours of economic stability. America has not been the only country that has been losing money in recent times, with elections being on the rise. However, the country of Lebanon, with factoring into it COVID-19 pandemics and the lack of education for its female citizens, has seen an astronomical decline in its economic stability, 21% radically within a radical drop between this year and last year, and a 51% drop between last year and 2021. Therefore, understanding this to be true, it's the civil war that has caused this poverty. So moving on to our second point of analysis, what has the government done to try to raise taxes? Well, not just taxes, but better the economy as a whole. Well, according to the New York Times, we saw that the government had various implementations to try to raise money for their people. And first and foremost, we can see that back in October 15th of 2021, the government's first mode of action in recent times was to impose a tax on all private social media calls, specifically the country's most popular social media, WhatsApp. There was a tax imposed on all WhatsApp calls to try to bring about more societal change and put revenue back in the funds of the people. However, very soon, riots and revolts broke out, causing more latter damage not only to the local sphere and strata of the country, but on a larger global scale. There was over $5.2 million in damage done based off of the riots against the phone call tax. Therefore, there were more taxes as well as social stratification, and eventually the country turned to a subsidy. Now, the subsidy was put on all food, oil, gas, electricity, and the people, although were not very happy with this, were able to bring about more revenue for the country. However, the subsidy was not taken very favorably either, and the subsidy was removed, as stated by the World Bank in June 20th of 2021. So with no current revenue in the pockets of the people, that leaves us with one thing, our point number 3, and that is, how in the future can Lebanon go about raising more money for its people to bring about more societal prosperity? Well, taking an image from what Hong Kong did just earlier last year, we see that in a country that was racked by systematic oppression and poverty, what they were able to do was bring about more tourism to increase societal change for their people. tourism is the number one best option and alternative for countries who are not only marginalized, but in some cases legally classified as third world. Being the fact that most Americans as well as Westerners have the money to extend to these countries for the sake of an exotic appeal. Now, although this may not be necessarily what most people would like to believe, the HRW stated in October 21st of, again, 2021, that when it comes to countries trying to pull themselves out of poverty, tourism is the best way to go about doing so. Lebanon not only has an attractive culture that is radically different from most first world or westernized nations, but they are able to pull more people to wanting to see the country and put themselves, so to speak, on display for others to understand and take pity upon their situation and contribute. Additionally, going on back into manufacturing and textiles will help this country also pull itself out of depression. Just like how Hong Kong utilized the textile industry to help bring about more jobs and stimulate the economies of their people to put them back to work and bring about more tax revenue, so can the country of Lebanon if they were to increase their textile factories within the country and hopefully add more unique jobs, bringing more skilled workers into the nation to pull them out of this systematic oppression. So, although we know that the country of Lebanon may not be seeing dramatic increases in economic prosperity anytime soon, small steps towards the right direction can be taken to help the people pull themselves out of almost 50 years of poverty. Therefore, number one, we can see that by understanding where Lebanon came from. Number two, understanding the faults and flaws of the government's already pre-implemented solutions to their poverty. And number three, implementing more creative solutions. These are all aspects to help us understand how Lebanon will be able to survive the economic disparities in the future and pull themselves out of crisis. Thank you.